Welcome to another episode of Command Your Confidence. I got 3 cute girls who are too pretty to be on camera tonight, but they wanted to help you guys, give you some killer tips on some online dating advice so you can find the love of your life, get laid, whatever it is you want. But
yes.
So we'll go with you. Tell me your name and you say your first name and tell me what advice do you have for guys?
It can be a fake name.
The fake name.
I'm Jane.
Okay, Jane, nice to meet you.
And what was the question?
So what one piece of advice would you give to a guy who's just going out on a date for the first time so he can be success? Say, I know everyone's subjective when it comes to dating, but what piece of advice do you have for a guy on a date?
Is this particularly someone you met on a dating app?
Yeah, dating app
Okay.
or in person, whatever.
So, all right, in that instance, you've established that you're attracted to each other, you've swiped right, whatever. At that point, you just I know everyone says be yourself, but don't overcompensate for, I can't talk, I don't know.
So what do you mean by overcompensate, just out of curiosity?
If you're nervous and you know that you get talkative when you're nervous or you get quiet when you're nervous, take a deep breath and don't do that. It's a terrible reason.
So
I can't. What you were saying was better.
So
Chicken McNuggets.
introduce you. You're on microphone.
Okay.
So give a fake name and give me your one piece of a dating advice to help guys out in the dating world.
Robert Chicken McNuggets, buddy.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Lisa. My real name is Lisa. If I could give gentlemen one piece of dating advice from my experience, being on dates, I'd say 75 to 85% of the dates that I've been on, they'll end up talking about themselves almost the whole time without knowing it, maybe. But they'll try to throw 1 or 2 questions out, but then it'll end up just being so that they can then share back about themselves. And granted, I know for me it's easy to ask more questions, but in general, I would love if guys could learn to ask more questions.
Can I ask you a question based off of your response? So, when the guys are talking about themselves, are they talking about how much money they make and or what they do? Explain more about that.
No, it could be anything. Not usually money. No, it's really just anything. It's sharing the very nitty-gritty details of how did they find their dog and what do they do every day, which is all actually great information.
Just happened to me.
Yeah,
2 hours ago.
you actually want to know all the information they're sharing, but you want it to be more 50-50 as opposed to 95-5. That's the biggest piece, and it's just the learning to ask questions, learning to kind of tune back in with, oh my gosh, I have been talking so long. I actually got to the end of a date with somebody who was a classic culprit, who at the end of the day, they went, I know that we talked about me the whole time, but we'll talk about you next time.
Right.
And you can know that there was no next time.
Well, I'm sorry to hear you had a crappy date. Well, another question that comes to mind, though, say you met this cute guy on a dating app and everything, is very handsome, but he wasn't flirtatious or didn't show any sign of interest. Is that kind of a sign that I don't know if he's into me? Would you like a guy? Do you like a guy who can show that to you on a first date?
I definitely don't need somebody to be super flirtatious. Actually, that kind of turns me off because I'm just get to know me as a human for a second. That would be great.
Woman first.
But yeah, no, I think that's helpful. What was the other thing that you asked?
No, but okay. So what the guy wanted to get you to know you more, and so maybe he wanted to be flirtatious to show that he was interested in you, so to let you know that. That's what I meant, but not be flirtatious right away. But after during the conversation, and say. Well, this woman seems like she's the shit, so that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, I think if they're interested in you, thank you. I think if they're interested in you, it naturally comes out and they naturally start to ask you more about yourself. So I think it's an organic thing that happens. They don't have to try so hard. They don't have to be thinking, how do I show her I'm interested? They'll just ask things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or validate something you said. Just in general things that you would do just with a friend. They could just do that with you.
Mm-hmm. But also, pay very close attention to how she reacts to the flirtation things that you do throw out. If you're gonna try, I'm gonna try to flirt with her, and she doesn't actively reciprocate, dial it back for a second. Don't keep going to show maybe she didn't get it the first time. We understand what the goal is. Everyone knows we're all trying to sleep with each other.
Not me.
Yeah, right. No, we're just kidding.
No, I'm a little
But
not.
But no, I agree with you, because that's one thing guys have to be aware of, because like if a guy's flirting with you and doesn't know how to show you're saying the sign that you're not interested, then like he has to stop, because that's you've got to understand. Well, hey, I'm not interested.
But it's also not necessarily an outward sign that we're not interested, but it's not reciprocating that interest. Like if we get quiet, that's the sign that we're not interested. We're not going to say something like, oh, that was bad. Like, we're not going to give you a sign. We're going to just stop interacting, if that makes sense.
Right. I understand you on that.
I usually go quiet when I'm hoping that they'll realize that it's time for them to ask a question. I'll give it an extra beat.
So I'm curious though, but so say you're out on a date with a guy, how do you show that you're interested in him?
I think it just naturally shows. Like, I'll be like, oh, that's really interesting. Tell me more about that. Or, I don't know. It's just like generally reading people. I guess that is a hard thing to know, though. It's not so steadfast, but.
Right.
I'll do some touching. Like, not heavy petting, but like just some touches, like, on the arm or whatever.
Like you're doing to me right now.
Yes, like I'm doing it right now. But not like that. As an example.
I know.
But I will say, I feel like people give advice like, oh, if she's laughing at your jokes, that's a sign. It's actually not necessarily. Like, it's something that we do. Yes, like I'll laugh at anything. I'll laugh to make the situation more comfortable. But if I'm actively touching you, like, yes. And it doesn't mean I want you to touch me back in that moment, but like, I'm going to touch you. Yeah. Let it happen if you want.
Emphasis should be like a little bit less on the like, how can I show you I'm interested? How can you show me you're interested? Just be like, just get to know them. Just get to know them as a person. And that's, you don't need to focus so much on that.
Especially first date.
Yeah.
First date's just like, let me just see who you are. And like, if you have a way to show who you are, not just like, how was your day, blah, 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 but like have some, not necessarily prepared, but like think about what you would want to say. Like maybe something from your week that's emblematic of who you are.
Okay.
Like not necessarily just like, yeah, I had a good day. I walked my dog. It's all about dogs. We love dogs.
So another question, and then we'll end the podcast here. So what would be the ideal first date, like when you're first trying to get to know someone? And I'll start with you.
Yep. Okay, before I take a bite. The ideal first date, honestly, for me, is like we sit down somewhere, maybe like a coffee shop, maybe food, whatever, but like we have a conversation and it flows very naturally and we vibe and we're laughing and it's like you kind of forget that you're on a date, and it's hard to like make that happen. It's really just about those two people and if they vibe well. And then after that, I feel like a good date kind of switches locations or switches activities. Like you go for a walk or you like do something else to like break it up a little bit. And at that point, then you might start like, oh, with the like pat on the shoulder, like kind of with the touching at like Eva said, like.
So you like the touch too, maybe the show interest on the first date.
Yeah. Especially if we've had that good conversation and we've built that foundation in the beginning, and then I'll move to, oh, okay, this is great. I'm interested. Let me show him that I'm interested, kind of thing.
That's a very good insight. Thank you very much for and I hope you guys gave some good advice to help some guys out. So rock on.
Oh, I love that.
How about you?
An ideal first date for me would be, it could go to another location, but if they expect that really makes me nervous. They're like, oh, they just assume.
House. Oh, no.
Oh, not the house. Not the house.
How about McDonald's?
Yeah. I've been to McDonald's on a date.
Really? Like McDonald's, everyone.
The location doesn't matter.
For me, though.
As long as you get to know someone, right, and see what they're like, to get a feel what they're like.
Exactly. I do kind of like old school gentlemen. I definitely don't mind that on a first date. If they want to, pick a location that's closer to me, I do appreciate that. Just on a first date to show that they're willing to put the effort in. They're willing to pay. That usually says a lot, but I'm always going to offer, always happy to split, but I love when they'll pick up the check, at least on a first date. Those are big ones. But yeah, just chatting, not making it a commitment that I need to be spending hours on end with them, but just like it can end. If we want to keep going, that's fine, but they don't expect that. Those are all big ones for me.
I have one more question. So have you ever been on a date where you really like the guy and you paid for his drink and meal? They're all saying no.
I know. I'm going very silent. It's not where I really liked him, though.
Well, thank you very much. I just had to ask that. Just got to add some humor here. There.
If I'm paying, it might mean I don't like it. So
Oh.
make this clear. Yeah.
But you have? Yeah,
How about you?
I love paying for my dates, but I will say they honestly get weird about it. So, like, if the girl's like, hey, let me get this, like, don't be all fucking weird about it. Like, just let it happen. Yeah, like, it means that I'm having a good time. I would like to just pick it up, like, in the same way that you'd like to pick it up. Same thing. Go with the flow.
Well, rock and roll. You always got to go with the flow. Well, hey, girls, thank you very much for, like, the great advice. And, you know, I hope my audience will like it and everything. And, you know, we'll have to get you on another, like, audio podcast again because you bring a sense of humor to it, which is nice. We'll say thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
There we go. There we got